Alright, so quarterbacks 6 through 10 in my top 10. We're just going to get straight into it. Number 6, we have Deshaun Watson. He's one of the most talented quarterbacks in the league. Talent-wise, you could put him above Aaron Rodgers and Drew Brees at this point in their career, but I feel like they just have a better team surrounding them, so they'll do better than him. But he's made the playoffs twice in his career, played 3 playoff games, went 10-5 last year as a starter. He played 15. The year before that, he went 11-5. Last year and the year before, he had 26 touchdowns. His rookie year, he had 19 touchdowns in 6 games. That's pretty good. I remember that. I picked him off waivers for fantasy, tore his ACL. And then I also traded for Dalvin Cook that year. He tore his ACL. It was great. It was a fun time. And Deshaun Watson, no one can deny his talent. We've seen the stuff he's done in the playoffs, against the Bills. He had that amazing play where, he spun out 2 defenders. He had that one play, I think it was against the Raiders, where, he got kicked in the eye or something, or, hit in the eye, and then threw a touchdown after. He's basically, as Dabo Sweeney says, the Michael Jordan of the NFL. He's going to get to that point, I believe, at some point. He's going to be a top 2 quarterback in the league near the end of his career. Not of all time, just in the league at the time. So it'll be like him and Mahomes. I don't think Lamar will ever be a top 2 quarterback in the league, just because I don't think he's as great of a thrower of the football as some of the other people that are young and on this list. But, he could still do great things with his legs, and he's not a bad thrower of the football. It's just, I think there's better people. But Deshaun Watson, great thrower, good runner. He doesn't run a lot, but when he needs to run, he does well. 7 touchdowns last year, 5 the year before. He gets the rushing touchdowns. He doesn't rush for a lot of yards. In his career, he has 1,233 yards. His long is 49 yards in his rookie year. That's pretty good. But, he did get sacked a lot the last 2 years. That's an issue. But they did improve that offensive line. They got Laramie Tunsil. They traded for him for, I believe it was 1 first-round pick, him and Kenny Stills. His wide receiver core, it's not as bad as everyone's saying it is. It's Kenny Stills, it's Randall Cobb, Brandon Cooks. Who's the other guy? Will Fuller. Yeah. And then Kiki QT also, who's not bad. You got those 5 guys to catch balls from Deshaun Watson. None of them are bad. They have David Johnson, who, if healthy, is a great running back. But as a whole, Deshaun Watson is 6 just due to the experience some guys have above him / just they're better. So heading on to number 7, I have Tom Brady. He's falling off a little bit. Last year, him and the Pats went 12-4. He threw for 4,000 yards, 24 touchdowns, 8 picks. Didn't make the Pro Bowl. But, the last game of the year, they lost to the Dolphins, and then they lost in the first round of the Titans. He's falling off a bit. It's pretty obvious at this point. Everyone can tell that he's not as good as he used to be. 2017 was really his last great year. 2018 he did good. Obviously they won the Super Bowl, but he wasn't the best of the best of Tom Brady. But he's Tom Brady. He has to be on this list. He can avoid sacks somehow just by moving up in the pocket. He obviously has one of the greatest IQs in football history. He's one of the winningest quarterbacks in football history, never going under 10 wins in a season in years that he's played. Except for 2002, he went 9-7. But besides that, basically never been under 10 wins in a season except for once, and the 1 year he tore his ACL. He's just a winning quarterback, as we all should know. 74,000 passing yards, 541 touchdowns, 179 picks. Obviously, he's the best quarterback of all time. He can't not be on this list, even if he is falling off a bit. I feel like he's still better than the 3 guys I have ranked below him, even after him not doing well, But last year, you have to give it to him. He had no real offensive line, no real weapons besides Edelman, and then AB for a game, and then Josh Gordon for a little bit. But, those 2 out of the league right now. Except I think Josh Gordon might still be on the Seahawks roster. I'm not 100% sure, though. Besides that, he had 24 touchdowns, 8 picks last year. Not great. Obviously he's not a runner. I'm pretty sure everyone knows that. But in the playoffs he does well, except last year. But, he just didn't have the offense for last year. He couldn't really carry them anymore. And then, he's joining Tampa Bay. The reason why I have him at 7 is just because of the team he's joining. He has Gronk, he has O.J. Howard, he has Cameron Braid at tight end. He has Mike Evans, Scotty Miller, Chris Godwin. That's just a stacked receiving core and tight end core to throw to. And I don't see how you can have him any lower than this. I mean, I guess you could potentially say that the other guys on this list could be better than him as of right now, like as of Tom Brady's skill set at 42, 43. But I think Tom Brady might do better than those other quarterbacks because of the team he has around him this year. Especially the guy at 8, who I'll get into in a second. But to summarize, Tom Brady, best quarterback of all time, going to a great situation in Tampa Bay, better than the New England offense last year, better offensive line, better weapons. I mean, Tampa Bay's given everything Tom needs to succeed next year. He's going to do great. He's going to win a lot of games, I think. He's going to go to the playoffs, hopefully do well in the playoffs. I'm rooting for him, even though he left the Pats, but we're not going to get into that. Number 8, we have Carson Wentz. This is a controversial pick. Carson Wentz is a one-time Pro Bowler. He has 14,000 career yards, 97 touchdowns, 35 picks. You could argue that the guy at 9, who I'll just say now is Dak Prescott, is better. But my thing with that is Carson Wentz has put up similar numbers, won similar amounts of games, except for their rookie years. And Carson Wentz has done everything he's needed to do with the amount of weapons he's had. He's never had any real good wide receivers except for Alshon Jeffrey. But Alshon Jeffrey's been injury prone with the Eagles. He hasn't played a lot of games for them. He hasn't done amazing for them stats wise, like receiving yards. He gets a lot of targets, but he's the only receiver. He gets covered by the best corner every game. And last year especially, for him to do as well as he did last year and beat Dak and make the playoffs over Dak with the team that Dak had, it's great. He had 4,000 yards, 27 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. He's the first quarterback in NFL history to throw for 4,000 yards and have no wide receiver over 500 yards. That's just crazy to me because his only real receiving options at wide receiver last year were J.J. Arcega-Whiteside and Alshon Jeffrey, who only played 10 games, and Greg Ward, a former quarterback turned wide receiver. He literally had nobody to throw to. Top 2 in receiving yards on his team last year were Zach Ertz and Dallas Goedert, 2 tight ends. Then it went a running back. Wide receiver was the 4th best position in receiving last year. If your wide receivers are that injured / that bad, you win 9 games, make the playoffs over a stacked Cowboys team, which I'll get into why I have Carson over Dak in just a second, then I don't see how you're not 7. Now, the reason I have Carson over Dak is because Dak Prescott has just been disappointing in the playoffs. In the playoffs at the end of the season, winning games-wise. 2016, his team was stacked. It was Zeke's rookie year when he went first team All-Pro. Obviously, he was going to make the playoffs and do well that year. 2017, he didn't make it with 9-7. That's the year that the Eagles were insane, and Carson Wentz was going to win MVP. But tore his ACL. Then last year, Carson went 5-6. The Cowboys went 10-6 and made the playoffs. But I'm pretty sure they were a first-round exit last year. Let me look. No. They won the wild card. But, they won the wild card in 2018 and then lost divisional round. And then Carson didn't make the playoffs that year. And then, this year they went 9-7 with the injury-prone team that they had and still beat Dak for the playoffs. Yet Dak had Mari Cooper, Michael Gallup, Jason Witten, who wasn't that good, Zeke, a good defense. Just the only thing he didn't have was a good coach. But he still beat you to make the playoffs. I feel like that's why Dak can't be at 7, just because of the way that he's kind of disappointed, especially the last year, with having a good team and doing well in the playoffs. So I feel like there's no way I could have the Cowboys quarterback, who's just been disappointing winning wise at the end of the season with a great team in the playoffs, over Carson Wentz, who was nearly an MVP, was great last year with no wide receivers. I feel like there's just no way you could put Dak over Carson Wentz for that reason. Now we have Dak. He is a good quarterback. He's kind of a scumbag, though. He's asking for way too much money than what he's worth. But, he's a Dallas Cowboys quarterback. He's going to bring a lot of attention to that team. So I guess it is kind of worth it. He's never missed a game in his career, which is one thing he does have over Carson. But, I don't know. I feel like Carson's just better as a whole. And, almost 5,000 yards last year, 30 touchdowns, 11 picks. But my thing with Dak is what I just said. He's not the best winner unless everything is right around him. 2016, he had Zeke on his rookie year when he was a first-team All-Pro, and he just had a great team as a whole. He's always had a good O-line. Same with Carson, though. 2017, they went 9-7, missed the playoffs. 2018, they went 10-6, made the playoffs, won 2 games. Last year, they probably had the best team they've ever had, and he missed the playoffs, which is just sad. He had 2 1,000-yard receivers, Zeke, a good O-line, Travis Frederick last year, good defense. You had Jalen Smith, Byron Jones, Leighton Vander Esch, and DeMarcus Lawrence. That's just a great group. They had another cornerback that wasn't bad, but I can't remember his name right now. And Dak Prescott couldn't win. Their defense was good. Their offense was amazing. I don't know what else he needs to make the playoffs. How do you go 8-8 with the team that you had? I don't know. I think it's just stupid. Dak Prescott's consistently had a better team than Carson Wentz. Yes, he had more wins throughout the first and third year of their career, but Carson also didn't play all 16 his third year. And as a whole, in 8 less games, Dak has 8 more games. Dak has 8 more wins than Carson. But I feel like Carson Wentz is just more talented. He's just a better thrower. He's better in the pocket. He's better outside the pocket too. I don't know. I just feel like Dak has always had good teams to kind of carry him. So I feel like there's no way that you can give Dak the advantage over Carson, because Carson Wentz's teams have never been A1. But Dak Prescott's teams have always been A1, A2, that sort of tier, elite or just almost elite. So that's my argument for Carson over Dak. And Dak's a good quarterback. He's almost threw 5,000 yards last year. But I just feel like Carson is simply just more talented and can help you win more games with a word. If you gave them the same roster, Carson would win more games. But obviously you can't do that. But by that I mean the same talent-wise roster. Basically the same talent of a roster. And now number 10, this is also controversial, Matthew Stafford. We're going to get into this quick. I just think, so my honorable mentions, I'll get into that real quick, is Matt Ryan, Jimmy G, Philip Rivers, Big Ben, Josh Allen, and Jared Goff. No order. But that's just my honorable mentions. You could be like, what about Big Ben? What about Philip Rivers? What about Josh Allen? What about Matt Ryan? Yes, but I feel like Matt Stafford going into next season will be better because, he played, I think, 3 games injured last year with the back, and then he was put on IR. He was 2-0-1 at a point, and then that's when he got injured, was the next game, I believe. So, he was great last year for a little bit. He was in the MVP conversation. He threw in 8 games. He threw 19 touchdowns, 5 picks, 2,500 yards. That's on pace for 5,000 yards, 38 touchdowns, and 10 picks. That's a great season. I don't know about you, but that's a pretty insane season. And, basically, I just don't see how Matt Stafford could be worse than Matt Ryan or Big Ben at this point, especially Big Ben. Big Ben's also coming off an injury, but I don't know. I feel like Matt Stafford next year has a better offense around him than Big Ben does. So I feel like as a whole, he'll do better than Big Ben. Maybe not winning wise, but just play wise, I think he'll do better, especially since Matt Stafford's injury wasn't huge. It wasn't a horrible injury. It's just the Lions knew that they weren't going to be good that season when Stafford went out, so they kept him out for the remainder of the year. But Big Ben's injury was bad. I'm pretty sure it was an elbow injury. And then, Jimmy G, he's good, but I don't know. I feel like he's not as good. He has a better team, so, we have to see if he can really do anything next year with the wide receivers he has. Matt Ryan can't win games to save his life. You could say the same thing for Matt Stafford, but, he's not really the worst quarterback at winning games. I'd say he might be better than Matt Ryan at this point because Matt Ryan last year had a good team. They just couldn't do anything with it. And then Philip Rivers sucks. Josh Allen he's young, so I'm not going to really put him over Stafford. And Goff sucks. So my argument for Stafford is he has one of the best arms in the league. He's very accurate. He's good in the pocket. He's good even with a bad team around him. He's never won a playoff game. He's only been in the playoffs 3 times. But I don't know. I feel like there's no reason to really put any of those 6 honorable mentions over Dak. I had Derek Carr in there, but then I remembered Big Ben. But still, I wouldn't even put Derek Carr above him. So heading into next season with his offense that he has, they draft a new running back. They have 2 good running backs, 2 good receivers, a young tight end. I feel like the Lions will be good next year. I feel like they could be potentially a 5, 6, 7 seed in the playoffs next year. But yeah, that's my top 10 quarterbacks. Matthew Stafford 10, Dak Prescott 9, Carson Wentz 8, Tom Brady 7, Deshaun Watson 6, Drew Brees 5, Aaron Rodgers 4, Lamar Jackson 3, Russell Wilson 2, Pat Mahomes 1. Thank you guys for watching. Like and subscribe. Have a good one.